Earth 2 strategies. Where to buy your land. Okay, so at this point, you've decided you want to buy land, you put some money into your account, and you're ready to get started. But where to buy land? Well, it's important to note that there isn't a right answer to this question, and every strategy that you see online is purely conjecture. There's no way to know for sure what the best strategy for buying land is going to be because there's a lot of unknown factors. That being said, there's a couple different schools of thought about where you should buy your land, and I'm going to go into them. So I think the first thing to note right off the bat is there is going to be no man-made structures when this launches. It's a one-to-one recreation of Earth, but it's just geographical and topographical data. Height maps will exist, like mountains will be there, rivers will be there, like all that stuff, but man-made structures, New York, Empire State Building, Eiffel Tower, Walk of Fame, none of that's going to be in there. People may choose to build that stuff or build something similar to it when the game comes out. However, there is no guarantee. So right now you see a lot of people buying up high traffic areas. Places like New York, Los Angeles, Beijing. Basically any major city is getting bought up very quickly. And this may prove to be a viable strategy. We don't know. The assumption is that high traffic areas in the real world will be high traffic areas when the game comes out. And look, this could totally happen, but I think it's important to note that a lot of the things about the game are ideas and not totally locked in. To the company's credit, they have been very consistent about the fact that a lot of this stuff is just the way they think it's going to work right now, and so many things are subject to change. And that's the thing people need to understand is this is a video game first and foremost, and in video game development, things change a lot. Things change in testing. Things change in balancing. Things change as the designers get new ideas. Assumptions about how things are going to work right now are just assumptions, and they might not end up panning out that way. That being said, they've given us a couple clues as to how they are pretty sure the game's gonna work. So it seems that when you log into the game, it's gonna use like GPS location, and it's going to like, if you're in Los Angeles and you boot the game up, you're gonna start in Los Angeles. So that does mean that the places that are the most populated are where people are just going to naturally spawn in because that's where they are on the real world location. Now, this doesn't mean that in the future they won't allow you to spawn into any place of your choice. If you own land in another country, can you just spawn into the land that you own? What sort of transportation options are going to be available? Are you going to have to physically walk or drive or fly there, or can you teleport? What sort of things will people be able to build? This is a video game. Can I build a teleporter? Can I build a jet that can fly at 10 times the speed of sound without too much trouble? Can I build a roller coaster that takes me from New York to Miami? There's a lot that we don't know yet. Like, there's a lot that we don't know, and there's a lot of assumptions that need to be made. But it doesn't seem like it's a terrible strategy to bank on the fact that people are going to congregate around naturally popular spots. I think a lot of people are going to want to recreate something similar to New York or LA. Even if it's not necessarily the LA that we know, maybe people are going to really get around the idea of building LA from Blade Runner, or building the LA from Grand Theft Auto and recreating Los Santos. People love doing that stuff. If you look at any kind of user-generated content in games, the first thing that they do is recreate stuff that they already know. When Little Big Planet or Dreams came out, the first thing people did was make Mario and Sonic levels. I think that this is going to translate into people wanting to recreate stuff that they already know from real life. However, I also think people are going to want to recreate fictional places that they really like. And the locales of fictional places are probably going to be made in places that are roughly similar to where they look like they are in these fictional things. For example, you're gonna build Wakanda in Africa, obviously. People might want to build a sci-fi base in Antarctica. Maybe there is a slice of Brazil that actually ends up looking a lot more like some place from Lord of the Rings than, you know, the kind of pseudo-Europe that it kind of takes place in. So this is something to consider too. Where might people want to build stuff from fictional areas? And so if you're thinking about like that, places that are barren in the real world, like deserts or dense jungles, might end up being huge hotspots for people building this kind of made up stuff. Especially if you consider that it would be hard to build Mordor in Los Angeles because so many other people are already going to be building other stuff there. So if you wanted to build Mordor, you would need to do it in a place where no one else is already building something, because you need a large swath of land that not a whole other people care about putting something in. Also, I think it's important to think about video games are escapism. And especially in VR, people are going to want to see things that they can't see in real life. Let's say you live in LA, that's cool. But you know where you're never gonna live? Antarctica. So guess what the first thing I wanna do is? I wanna get on a boat, sail to Antarctica, and start building an Antarctican city. Or put a hotel there, or build an apartment there, or something like that. And if I already own land there, even better. So I think it's also important to think about like where people might want to vacation, where they might want to visit. Where would be a good spot to build a hotel, or build an apartment that you can lease out, or build a house that you can rent out? Or where do you wanna go too? Not everything about this has to be about making money. Yes, I understand that that is an alluring feature of this, but again, consider that this is a video game, and one that you're probably really gonna wanna play in a couple years. And so I don't think it's wrong to buy a land in a place that you just wanna have land in. Maybe you have always wanted to see the Sahara Desert. Screw if there's ever gonna be any value in the Sahara Desert. Buy a plot of land in the Sahara so you can build a house and go there in VR and escape for a little bit. My point is, I wouldn't think about this purely as an investment tool. Think about it as a video game, and think about what the value you want to get out of that game is, whether that's monetary or experience driven. But again, there is no right way to build land, and people can come up with all sorts of different strategies, and they can make arguments for those strategies, and those can be super valid, but then when the game comes out, who knows what will happen. Remember, a lot of people play games who are also like good trolls, and there's absolutely going to be some trolly stuff in here. Some goofy thing in the middle of a country that very few people have heard of, where they build something incredible. Something else to consider on where to buy the land is the resources that you could potentially mine from there. Now, I have said that resources are going to be largely tied to their real life geographical location. So if you own land on a gold mine, you're going to be able to get better resources from that land than the middle of the desert. However, in the sake of balancing, it's not necessarily going to be one-to-one. So just because you have land where there aren't resources in real life doesn't necessarily mean there's not going to be resources there in the game. There's just not nearly as good of a chance. Also, because of the way the periodic bonuses work and the essential property tax that you're getting, you don't necessarily have to have land specifically on the resource in order to get residual income from resources that are in that country. Check out the deep dive on how to make money if you want more information on the periodical bonuses. I also think a good rule of thumb is probably to buy land by the coast, because coasts are very important because they can act as shipping lanes. They're generally pretty beautiful to look at, and there's a reason that most civilizations have formed around coastal cities. So have fun with it, develop your own personal strategy, and share strategies down below of how you feel like you want to buy land and where you want to buy your land. If you do buy land, feel free to use my referral code. You get 5% back on the purchase price of the land that you buy credited to your account. Thanks for checking this out. Please feel free to check out the rest of the videos where I talk about Earth 2, and let me know what things about Earth 2 you want me to make videos about.